Tyranids are just fun. They're just
Tyranids
fun.
are just good.
Yeah, they're just fun. They've been fun for since they got off Codex Hiveguard.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jake, and thanks for tuning in today. If you're new to the channel, what we do here is cover competitive 40K content and host fun and informative battle reports. If that kind of content interests you, I'd love for you to stay subscribed or subscribe, like the video, comment on the video so we can interact with you, which just greatly helps the channel. I'm here with Tracksuit Tim today. We're here to talk about Tyranids.
The lone brain cell in this house right now of Tyranids is me.
We're in a house of Tyranids right now?
No, and I'm surrounded by Eldar and guard players and gun lines, so yeah.
But yeah, Tyranids, post-nerf, they've gone through some changes as well. So this is interesting. I play Harlequins. They've gone through some changes. You've been playing Tyranids.
Yeah, I've been playing the regular Leviathan, classic Leviathan build, the 2 Harpies, 2 Bricks of Warriors, Flying Hive Tyrant, and, you know, all the other good stuff, as well as like Zone Throats and Tyrant Guard.
The configuration that basically everybody hates.
Yep.
But on a positive note, Tim, congrats. We just came off of SoCal. You took 5-1. Amazing job.
If you want to see me get my ass beat on camera, you can by checking out the FLG network, because it's day 2, game 5.
No, it was really good though. So if you don't know, SoCal, for the Frontline Gaming, SoCal Open is, what was it, about 200 and something registered players?
Registered players was around 200. Yeah. I think starting day was at 181.
181. Okay, yes. Cool. So yeah, and so the significance of SoCal Open, I mean, just the venue is really awesome, but it is the last big major before LVO.
In America.
Yeah. So it was super stacked.
Yes.
Mega stacked. What was the hardest matchups that you ran into?
The one where I got my butt kicked, which was Emperor's Children. And that one had Emperor's Children have fights first as well as like ignore to hit modifiers. So all the Venom Thropes and the Harpies that give off or have -1 to hit doesn't really matter to them. They also have some very long range shooting with high AP, high strength, and high damage. And unfortunately, I was caught laxed and didn't use CP properly, and then he got to go first, which means that his drop pod, whatever thing, came down. And they also have a strat to change a dice to a 6. So for the charge, all he has to roll is a 3 to get into combat. And the one thing about the Leviathan list is it doesn't have a lot of screening units, so if you're not actually screened properly for a turn 1 charge, he got to hit a Warrior Brick turn 1, and I thought maybe possibly on the crackback I might be able to pull up enough Chosen. That did not happen, and we sort of got stuck there, and that allowed him to push up the board. I think it's maybe a different game if I get to go first, but at this point it doesn't really matter because that list is sort of like semi-toast at this point. So,
but that's a good segue point. So a lot of players, a lot of Tyranids players, were basically saying the sky was falling for Leviathan when this all came out. Now, at least from what the changes I saw is like, yes, obviously on like the Warrior spam configuration, but what are your thoughts on Leviathan post-nerf?
Leviathan is still viable. I don't think you run like two Warrior Bricks, or maybe you run a smaller Warrior Brick as well as the 9, because even with the nerf for transhuman, the reason why I felt, and this could be completely wrong, is that the Warriors are survivable because you can constantly have a 5-up invuln on them, and then on top of that, you can always have -1 damage in any phase. In the games that I played, there's not a lot of strength 10 shooting, but there is quite a bit of strength 10 combat, so it does mean actually being a little bit more careful with the Warriors, whereas before you sent the Harpies up and then you sent the warriors up later on just to take the midfield and basically try to cap objectives and win on the primary, which is Tyranid's pretty much main goal, is just to win on the primary. So going up into the middle is a little bit more dangerous just because of counter charges and stuff like that, because there is a lot more high strength melee that I see than high strength shooting.
Right.
So I still think that Leviathan's a viable build. 1 brick of 9 warriors is still pretty good. That's where a lot of the CP is going to go, as well as the 5-up invuln at all times, because that can only go to core. There's a possibility that instead of taking the +1 to charge, instead you keep the Leviathan trait, which is transhuman to monsters and mini transhuman to anything else except zoanthropes and warriors, and you keep the reroll 1 to hit roll or 1 wound roll for each unit. So instead of going with a bunch of warriors, you start taking like venom cannons and stuff like that, which are 3 shots. So you get a free reroll to hit or to wound on every single single unit that has a venom cannon. So looking at Carnifexes, looking at Tyrannifexes with the rupture cannons, which are very, very high strength and can sit back.
The 3-shot ones?
The 3-shot ones. I think they're 3-shot strength 14, AP -4, D6 +4 damage or something like that, or D3 +4.
No big deal, D6 +4.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It might be D3.
Yeah.
I haven't used a T-Fex, so I'm a little bit iffy on that. And then also the Harpies definitely benefit from that, because they still get a reroll to hit or wound for each one of them.
Nice.
So your shooting actually becomes a little bit more reliable, as well as if those monsters get stuck into combat, that's a little bit more reliable as well.
Very nice. So basically, warrior spam, like more specifically, a warrior spam is dead. Yeah, for obvious reasons.
I still think you see at least, if you're running Leviathan, I still think you see at least 1 6 to 9 man brick of warriors, just because you can constantly put that 5-up invuln on them at all times. And the durability is not as good, but it is still there because of the -1 damage strat, the 5-up invuln, and then you can also put the catalyst, which is the 5-up feel no pain. So they become, instead of having 2 bricks that are really hard to deal with, you just have 1 that you consistently have to buff to keep them alive.
Nice. So where are you seeing, at least like for your personal efforts before, the guard, because right now the guard codex is not out, right? But that's going to change things for sure right before LVO.
Yeah.
Okay, which is the obviously the biggest event, or the next biggest event that we're going to. With the changes to Leviathan and the list that you've been running, which direction are you heading to? Like, what's your list and what your theory is looking like right now?
I don't know. I have a lot of a lot of lists in the air right now. It sort of depends on how prevalent Votann is, because Votann is actually one of the few armies that can ignore cover. So if they are really, really prevalent, I don't think I run Behemoth. I think I stick with Kraken. There's the list that I'm running with Kraken is more about, it's basically completely tooled into melee, which does have its downsides. The other one that I've been seeing a lot is the Spore Mine Factory list that I think was run by John Lennon, and that is just a ton of mortal wounds to try to get through every single turn, and it's not as simple to run as Leviathan, Leviathan Warriors, where you just sort of like, go up into the midboard and take primary, but it still is a lot of mortal wounds because of just the amount of spore mines that are actually
How many spore mines are we talking about? Because even just like the few that you see around the board are super annoying. Yeah. So how many spore mines are we talking about?
So I think like the list that I've been seeing is like 3 to 6 biovores. Each one creates, I think, D3 number of spore mines, and then they're also taking spore assists that, or I forget what it's called, but there's a unit that also creates spore mines. So it's pretty easily like 9 to 10 spore mines, and that might be on the low side.
Ooh.
That are produced every single turn.
And that are saying, don't come here,
yeah,
or come here and die.
Or like either don't come here. If you do come here, you'll take mortal wounds. And then the other part is possibly if you target the spore mines, you are not targeting the rest of the army. So the rest of the army gets to move about and do what it is. So there's that one. I'm trying to make Swarmlord work because I love the character, so I'm trying to make him work in a Kraken list right now, which is just Swarmlord is double patrol, so you can have 2 tyrants and then a whole bunch of core, so that Swarmlord's value is actually in there. And if Votan sort of goes out, where the searchlights are no longer there to get rid of light cover, there's a behemoth build which might be a meme list, but I think it's pretty funny. It's a Tyrant Guard, and you actually, instead of doing monsters get obsec, you run a heavy infantry build and put double cover on Tyrant Guard. So when they touch terrain, they're at a 0-up save.
Oof.
4 wounds, T6.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, they become a little bit of a pain in the ass to actually kill, and so it's probably a meme list, but it seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you've got some ideas flowing.
Yeah.
All surrounding Kraken.
Most. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, yep. The one that you showed me the other night, where it was just like everything was like AP5 across the board.
Yes.
How did you get there? Like, so I'm sure people would get curious because it slices right through Armor of Contempt.
Yes.
But also just kind of slices through things, period.
Yes.
How did you make that build?
So a lot of Tyranid stuff is either AP4 or AP3 just naturally. Kraken allows you to get an additional AP when you charge, and so it's pretty easy to start stacking that. So Hive Tyrants with the Lash Whip and Bone Swords become AP5, Swarmlord becomes AP5, Raveners become AP5, and with a ton of attacks. The only way to make this viable is if you're actually tagging and actually making charges, which Kraken's Psychic Power, and then some of the strats that Tyranids naturally have, as well as the strat that Kraken has, makes it a lot easier to make those charges more viable. Also, instead of, because Kraken allows you to take from hunt and feed, obviously, well, not obviously, like my preference is always +1 to charge. So I will always swap out the second part where you advance D3 +3 for +1 to charge across the entire army.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's a lot of ideas for the single last brain cell for Tyranids.
Yeah. Yeah.
After all that biomass you consumed at SoCal too.
Yeah. I'm trying to make things work. I need a lot more practice because, like I said, the Leviathan build was much easier to pilot. There's just because of the innate durability of having transhuman on that many wounds, makes it a lot easier, and sometimes dice go cold, and that's when you start losing a lot of warriors. I know I played another Tyranid player in SoCal, and
did you play like 3?
I played 2.
Okay.
And one of them, I think, in turn 1 did about 27 to 30 mortal wounds. Turn 1. And he almost killed an entire warrior brick just with mortal wounds. So yeah, Kraken is much faster. To me, it's a lot more fun to play. But it is going to take reps with the list over and over to actually get the movement, the deployment, and no matter what, running a heavy melee army, it means terrain is massive.
Yeah. And especially when you're trying to be precise with like big models too. Like that's always a very big part because you can't just fly through stuff, you can't walk through stuff. So it sounds like it's gonna take some skill to like pilot big monsters in a melee format.
Yes.
So interesting.
Yeah. So I have 3 Screamer killers in that list. So they're AP4 on the charge as well with, I think, 11 attacks. So yeah, they can get work done. I was more expecting to see more Chaos Terminators, more of that variety on the board, and that's why I went more into like high AP. I do not own Biovores, so I cannot do the Spore Mine Factory, not yet. So I leaned more heavily into a melee version with a little bit of shooting here and there from the Raveners, as well as the I have 1 unit of warriors now instead of the 2 units of 9 warriors in the list. So
would you agree that the biggest change that we've seen since Leviathan kind of got toned down here is that there's not really like a go-to way to run competitive Tyranids now?
Yeah, I think like Kraken's probably going to be...
You were going to say McCracken.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, McCracken. So Kraken's still going to be like one of the top ones that a lot of people are going to switch to, but I think there are, because just the data slates in Tyranids are pretty good.
Yeah.
I think there's a multitude of builds depending on what meta is actually showing up and stuff like that.
Nice.
So if it's more Armor of Contempt, Kraken's going to be a really big go-to. Behemoth is really not that bad. And then I played a Behemoth player and then a Jorgamander. The J1. The J1, I played that guy, and he had a monster build with, I think, triple patrol with triple tyrant. And that one can also be pretty nasty if the gun lines start becoming a issue, because if you're more than 18 inches away from any monster, you are -1 to hit.
Ooh.
And they also have a spell for +1 AP in combat.
Nice.
So
do they still get like the army-wide light cover?
Yeah, so it depends on what it's attached to. I think infantry, it's more than 12 inches away, you get dense cover. And then if you're more than 18 inches away, it's dense cover, which is the -1. I don't think it's light cover anymore. That might be the second point. I was just looking at the first one.
Nice.
And then you can switch, if you're doing a monster build, you can switch it to all monsters are OBSEC, and if they're 10 or more wounds, they count as 5 models.
That one sounded fun.
Yes.
Yeah, that one sounded pretty crazy.
Yeah. So if heavy gun lines where people want to stay back become a bigger thing, then you might see a possibility of Leviathan coming back, as well as Jorgamander. The J1. The J1.
The black and yellow dudes.
Yeah, the black and yellow dudes. So Tyranids just have a lot of flexibility and stuff, and I'm personally excited seeing the different builds that are coming out after Leviathan got nerfed. Yeah. Like I'm super happy to see the Spore Mine Factory show up and actually be doing super well. My thing is, I've always loved Swarmlord. In 8th edition, I pretty much always ran him, and I'm gonna try my best to make him work right now.
You'll make it work. I have faith.
I'll try.
I have faith. But I think the best part is, especially for Tyranids players, because there's such a deep-rooted like fan base and history with them, is like it's way different than what happened last edition, or with the last codex, where it was just became Codex Hiveguard.
Yes.
For I don't even remember how long that was. It felt like an eternity.
Yeah, and then
but that was like the only viable way to play them for the longest part.
And then the Army of Renown made it even better to take Codex Hiveguard as well. That was super fun.
Yeah. So, I almost forgot about those days.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
Tyranids have been fairly good for a long time. I've been pretty happy to be a Tyranid player for a while.
Yeah. I guess that's why we keep you around.
Yeah, I took a little bit of a break when the New Sisters Codex dropped, but I'm back on Tyranids, and I'm happy that it's not Codex Leviathan anymore. So
oh man, that was dark times. I just had flashbacks as soon as you were talking about that between like Crusher Stampede and stuff. I didn't get as much of the blowback that other players did because I was playing broken ass Custodes at the time.
Yeah.
So like it didn't hurt me as much.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, like,
it was fun.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. So yeah, Tim, any kind of advice you would give to like new player or like players that are trying to get into Tyranids in current day? Like what's a good starting point, do you think? Like what do you kind of wish that you knew then that you know now?
Like competitively or what?
Just where to start, man.
Where to start?
Yeah. We got a lot of like people like trying to bounce into armies and stuff.
You can't go wrong with warriors still. Like even with not having transhuman, they're still a staple. Just because of synapse and their adrenal glands still making them strength 8. And then like depending on whether you want to be a shooting list or a melee list, you can buy whatever models that you want.
That's sick.
So like I said, my whole thing might not be the most competitive, but the fact is that I love Swarmlord, so I have put him back in the list to try to make him work. Maybe not the most competitive choice, but he's the data slates for most of the units are viable. So if you want to run a horde, there's Gorgon as well as Hydra to run hordes. If you want to run monster mash lists, you got Jorgamunder as well as Behemoth.
Nice.
If you just want to go fast and hit hard in combat, you got Kraken. So it all depends on like what army and what playstyle speaks to you. So if you're new, like either find the models that really speak to you or try stuff out, because at this point with Leviathan warrior spam being gone, this is the perfect time to actually just say screw
experiment,
it. I'm gonna
get all the models you wanted.
All the models that I was like, I haven't put this on the table, I'm putting this on the table.
That's awesome.
And just see how well it does. And be prepared for some mistakes, because I definitely made some mistakes in our practice game. So yeah, it just happens.
Top 3 armies you're afraid of right now in the Tyranid state.
In the Tyranid state, if I don't have Harpies, Blood Angels, mainly because of the Whirlwind, with Fights Last being able to be shot across the table. Votan is pretty scary as well, just because of how many bullets and the auto wounding. And then
Demons?
With Kraken, I don't know.
Not so much?
Not so much, because typically, I mean, I have the speed now to get in combat with Paroxysm, which is their psychic power. I can shut off Overwatch. And so there's a possibility. I still think demons are definitely concerning. I'll say Emperor's Children.
Yeah.
You're
traumatized.
I'm traumatized by that army. But yeah, demons, the insurgents of flamers, and then I would say Emperor's Children, if I'm relying on a lot of -1, and just because of how durable they can be.
Man, it must be nice. So like you struggle to find like three factions that you're afraid of. Coming off of Harlequins, like I'm afraid of everything. Yeah. Every single game. I'm just worried I'm going to get tabled in 2 seconds.
You just got to rely on that 4-up, baby.
It's stressful, man. It's like a hardcore pressure test every single game. But
I've also been running a lot easier list to pilot. So also there's probably some armies that I'm not thinking of because
you just haven't gotten the trauma yet.
I haven't gotten the trauma yet, right? Because as soon as I show up on a table and accidentally make a mistake, and one mistake and sort of lose the game off of that, then I might be like, oh yeah, this is semi-concerning. But yes, Be'lakor and Scarbrand and anything that ignores invulnerable saves is definitely terrifying for me, because the characters almost are now reliant more on invulnerable saves, more so than anything else in positioning.
It should be a pretty exciting lineup for the next bat reps that we've got going on here.
Yeah.
Because we all low-key transitioned a little bit.
Yep.
The only person I'm not looking forward to throwing down with is, our director earlier when the guard book drops, because nothing in there sounds like a good time for the person on the other side.
I'll do it.
Yeah, do it.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see that as
You
well.
take it. You get that PTSD.
I will. So, yeah. I think there are definite matchups that are concerning, but because I'm still in Leviathan Warrior Brick spam.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost been the entire year that you've been practicing or repping with this kind of list, right?
Probably about, I want to say probably close to about 6 months of just the warrior spam build and stuff like that with little variations. I know at an RTT I took 36 warriors as a giggle to myself to
we dodged
RTT.
each other that day.
Yeah. But I've always been a fan of 2 harpies, and I'm definitely going to miss. I'm gonna miss 2 harpies in my list. Oh my god. I'm so.
If you've gone up against harpies, you know why. You know why nobody's gonna miss them.
Yep. They'll still be around. They're just not gonna be in the I mean, they're still really viable in Leviathan, but not in. I think Kraken, for me, if I'm not doing the Spore Factory, I have to lean super heavily into what Kraken wants to do.
Yeah.
So
big time.
Yeah.
Synergize.
Yeah. So, but it's definitely not as durable as Leviathan was. So, yeah. Tyranids are just fun. They're just
Tyranids are just good.
Yeah, they're just fun. They've been fun for since they got off Codex Hiveguard.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, Leviathan was nerfed, but like I'm super excited to see what lists come out, because I know just in Vegas we have Kraken, Behemoth, Gorgon, and Hydra being tested out right now.
Yeah.
So I'm super happy that people are just testing out and trying different things.
Vegas is getting pretty thick with the competitive scene out here.
Maybe.
Yeah. Just the amount of players that do well, like yourself, Wallace from XPZ.
Yeah.
The Blood Angels player we're talking about is Junior.
Yeah.
All our points of references, like they're the ones that you see at these big events. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. But I think that's really awesome, Tim, that you're having fun with the Army. You're going to keep having fun with the Army. That I think what you're saying is don't lose faith if you're a Tyranids player right now. The sky is not falling, and
hell no.
That's great. That's always great for an Army.
Not at all. Tyranids still definitely have play. So definitely.
Well, if you guys have questions for Tim, because he's the Swarm Lord, we're going to change your name. We're going to change your name to Tim the Swarm Lord.
Yeah. Single brain cell. One brain cell.
If you have questions for Tim, throw it down in the comments below, or join in on the conversation on Discord, whatever it might be. But I think that's it. I think that's a wrap for the Tyranids in 2022.
Yeah. It's been a good run, man.
It's been a great year.
It's been a good run.
Yeah. But that's it for today, folks. Until next time, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Bye.
There was like one moment when you said run fast. I was physically uncomfortable when you didn't say eat ass.
Yeah.
I've got to change that.
That's because that became Josh's thing.
I stole it, huh?
Yeah. So I won't say it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.